Good afternoon, Sean here from Mountains Garage. Today I just finished up an exhaust project and I still have a lot of stuff laid out on the bench, so it seemed like a good time to talk about all your options if you want to build your own exhaust system. If you work in the automotive field, you probably notice that you don't do nearly the amount of exhaust systems that you used to, mostly because the factories have gone to I call it semi-stainless. We'll get into the different types of metal, but they use 410 stainless. It's magnetic, but it has anti-rust properties, and the stuff pretty much lasts the life of the vehicle. Well, let's go way back in time and start with your traditional tailpipe, half crushed. It's got crimps in it. This was the standard of the industry for a long time. And a lot of tests have been done about dimpling headers and stuff like that. And I don't think your engine really cares, but there's a lot better options. So that's about as low on the totem pole as you can get. I daydreamed for years about having my own pipe bender, and maybe I'd just bend up custom exhaust systems, and that'd be a great life. But I didn't. So when I transitioned into building vehicles and stuff, you could either buy a bolt-on kit, which typically doesn't fit. Universal's even worse. Or I would buy boxes and boxes of J and U bends and make my own. This takes a long time. If you start to build your own set of headers and then transition back to the rest of the exhaust system, by the time you get to the rear bumper, you spend a lot of time. It's beautiful. It's all mandrel bent, all the same size, no crimps. If you're paying somebody to do this, well worth the money. It's beautiful. Not many people are even doing it these days. Even getting exhaust bent up is hard enough. There's not that many choices anymore. Your average corner garage doesn't do it anymore. So if you got a guy that's good at either one, stick with him. So the first summer I was in business for myself, imagine my joy/horror when I see this machine for sale. And it was actually a fairy tale, one owner shop. The only guy that ever used it never really grasped how to use it that well, so he didn't use it a lot. I bought the machine and all his pipe inventory, loaded it in my trailer, and brought it home. And I had to clean everything up and paint it and learn how to use it. And I'm still learning how to use it, but it's pretty intuitive. This will do all the way to 3-inch. My 3-inch die does make those little dimples like that first tailpipe I showed you, but they're spread out evenly, and that's only if you go the full 90. 3 inches is the hardest to work with. Up to 2.5, this does a really nice job. It doesn't crimp as deep as many as I've seen. But it is a dream come true, and wicked handy when you're trying to transition from, well, for instance, a Monte Carlo I've been working on. I had to do J bends and U bends in stainless just to get down to the turbo and down away from the turbo. And then once I got underneath, I went ahead and bent the rest of the exhaust up with this to connect to the tailpipe, so I'll show you right now. First, I'll finish my thought. I say horror because I had just gone into business for myself and really didn't want to spend all my money on something I'm not going to use very often, but I couldn't pass it up. And while it was relevant, this company's still in business. I called them up and I bought the doming dies and ball socket dies, and you name it. I think I have just about every option, but again, still learning how to use it. Let's go look at the money. This is the underside view of the right turbo. I dumped the wastegate into the downpipe, and the downpipe on a G-body is pretty tight, but I managed to snake it down through there with my goal of making it all the way to the back of the car. It's definitely a tight fit, but eventually transitioned, and I've connected into the stock tailpipes. It makes a slight dimple. I've seen a lot worse. It kind of pushes out the back, so it's still pretty good. Again, it's pretty speedy, and you can definitely cover some ground compared to using straight pieces of pipe and J and U bends. Now let's talk about pipe material. My favorite, also the most least inexpensive option, is the traditional Walker aluminized exhaust pipe. This stuff is damn near structural. It's like 80 thousandths, 10 gauge, 79 thousandths. It's aluminized. It MIG welds or TIG welds structural. You don't have to worry about burning through. You just weld it like you weld on a piece of thick steel. I don't know the longevity, but I was gonna say this compared to your stock junk you used to buy. I don't know how long it would take to actually rust through this stuff. So, unless this is good for most everything. I also like the aluminized bends. If it's gonna show, you got to paint it or whatever. But I paint it with high heat black or silver, and it'll last years and years. But I understand. I've also built a lot of stainless stuff. Sometimes you want stainless, but when I can, and I'm just building, street type vehicles, this stuff is awesome. It's inexpensive, bends nice, welds nice. You can't beat it. Now let's talk stainless. You have to identify the stainless you have. I'd love to say if it was shiny, you can't bend it. But this piece also is not shiny, but I could not bend this either without crimping it. Basically, if you have a stainless in the 300 series, 308 for instance, unless you have a mandrel bender, you're not going to bend it on a pipe bender at all. You can cut it. It sucks to cut. Working with stainless is hard. It's worth every penny when you're done. It does weld pretty nice. TIG weld. I guess MIG weld if you have a stainless setup in your MIG welder. I mentioned before your factory exhaust, and this is also Walker. It's 14 gauge, bendable stainless, 410. I can bend this in my bender. It's probably cost twice what the aluminized does. This will build a nice exhaust system. It's not going to be show quality. It's not going to shine like that. It's probably going to turn the same color your factory exhaust does, kind of a brownish reddish color, but it will last a long, long time. Then when you transition into, this is 308, 3-inch. I actually bought this. Also, you can buy it at your auto parts store. It's available, but you cannot bend it. So it's just good for straight pipe. You try to bend the slightest bit, and it'll just kink on you. Same with that. This is 2.5. This is Chinese stuff. eBay, you buy the whole kit. Builder's kit. It welds okay. I mean, probably your stainless TIG wire is made in China too, so there's definitely different qualities. Stainless, again, very hard to work with. It's hard to drill a hole in it. It's hard to cut it. Anybody that's doing like 1,000 pie cuts in stainless and doing flawless TIG welds, they're worth every penny. That's a lot of work. I started to say I bought this piece of 3-inch 308 stainless just to see if I could bend it a little bit, and what you see missing from my 10-foot piece is now scrap. It's junk. Good way to tell what you have for stainless. This is the 409 or 410 or 400 series. Magnetic. Anything 3 series, nobody home. Not magnetic. If it's not magnetic, you're not going to bend it. Pretty much. There's always exceptions to the rule, but that's what I go by. Now let's talk about some of the accessories. The V-bands are definitely a nice way to make a connection. Easy, it gives you a place to disconnect later on. You're going to run into some trouble. The straight sizes, maybe like 2-inch and 3-inch, let's just say the translation is okay, and they seem to get it right. You try to go like 2.5. Sometimes they're really 2.25. It'll say 225 on it, but it has a 2.5 clamp. It gets really, really confusing. That one's not marked, but yeah, it is 2.5. So be aware that, if you bought something that has a V-band already welded on it, matching it up, like for instance, I bought a turbo manifold. It's got a V-band on it. It said it was 2.5. Well, it's actually 225, which measures 2.5 ID. Very confusing, but you can work your way through it. These come in 2 different styles. Some have this flange that interlocks to the other half. Excellent leak stopper. I was a heavy diesel mechanic for a lot of years. No big truck I ever worked on encountered that had this on it. It was just flat like these are. And with the V-band, these seldom leak. These are easy to work with. You can weld them right on. You don't have to have the halves together. If they distort, it doesn't matter. I mean, these distort the tiniest little bit, and you can't get them back together. I actually clamp it up and try to weld, put any heat to it with the halves together with the clamp on it. Otherwise, they're not going to go back together very well. So if you can weld both halves with the clamp on it, let it cool, it'll probably still fit together. But these definitely step up the difficulty level compared to these, which are easy to work with. You don't know what you're going to get unless you study the ad either, if you're just buying them online. I actually don't know if anybody stocks these locally, but two considerations. Same goes for O2 bungs. You can get them in stainless or regular steel. Some have a little step in them, so the hole you drill is smaller because you're welding on a curve. No matter what you're doing, you're putting it in a pipe, so it's not a flat surface. So the fit up gets a little tricky. I guess out of the two, these are stainless. I bought 10 of them in a bag, but I think I prefer the real steel ones as far as being repairable. Stainless, once again, things are great when they're great, and they're really bad when they go bad. And finally, let's talk about hangers. I'm not a big fan of the traditional universal style hangers that have a piece of rubber in the middle that will probably fail in a couple years. I like these. Even if the rubber finally gave out, it's still got a 360 grab on it, so your tailpipe or your pipe's not going to fall down. It just takes 3/8 rod. You can get it in stainless or regular. Bend it in any configuration. I bend a little L there with a little angle on it so it doesn't fall out sideways. And I weld it to the side of my pipe. It's wicked simple. Probably lasts forever. Super strong. You can do pull-ups on it. When things are cheap and easy and work, it's better off. Those other double swivel universal things, I just don't like them. Finally, this is where I start talking about stuff that nobody wants to talk about. It's safety and emissions. I'm not talking safety today. When I get talking about safety and race cars and stuff, nobody wants to talk about it. And I'm going to talk about emissions. I know a guy, he may or may not even watch this video. He used to run an exhaust shop, and he would not remove cat converters and stuff. And back then, I didn't, think, I don't know what I thought, to be honest with you. But now, one of the reasons why I don't do custom exhaust work for a lot of people is because it's technically illegal, and they're really clamping down on that stuff. When I LS swapped my Dodge, the truck's an 83. Now I'm putting a later model engine in it, and in my mind, it's way more efficient than the original stuff. I'm actually doing the Earth a favor, right? By putting a fuel-injected LS in it compared to that Slant 6 it had in it originally. Had a full 40 in it when I got it. But anyway, I ran twin 3-inch into a 5-inch tailpipe because that's what I had. And it's cool. I had a pair of brand new 3-inch Flowmasters. I think they were 44s. Anyway, it was going to be probably obnoxiously loud and illegal because it didn't have cats. So while I was building the exhaust system, I bought two 3-inch stainless universal cats. And that combined with my Flowmaster is the nicest sounding exhaust system I've ever built. It's not obnoxious. I can, if I see an officer of the law coming at me, if I take my foot off the throttle, you can't even hear the truck running. It's loud when you want it to be, and technically legal because it's 1983 here in the state I live in, the state of Maine. It has to have cat converter or cat converters. They weren't expensive. And I can smell them every now and then, but it's not a bad smell. You know the smell I'm talking about. But in the end, it really wasn't the end of the world just to put them on. Anyway, that's my thoughts about exhaust. Now I'm going to pick up this mess and move on to something else. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Hey, Sean here one more time. Sometimes I don't correct the mistakes in my videos because they're pretty minor. For some reason, this one's bothering me. When I was looking up, that's the left-hand turbo. When you sit in the vehicle, That's how you call out parts. I was a parts man for a while, and it always drove me nuts when people got their rights and lefts confused when it came to vehicles. It's always the perspective of you sitting in the driver's seat, left and right. So I fixed it, I guess. I'm not going to edit it. I don't like editing at all. So have a great evening. Thanks.